Welcome to Michigan in Focus. I'm Scott McClellan, Michigan and Minnesota reporter. With me today is Tom Ganter, the Center Square's managing editor. So Tom, starting June 30th, Michiganders who use a cell phone while driving could face fines and penalties under legislation signed into law this week by Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Violators can face civil fines, community service, a mandatory driver's course, or even a license suspension. So this legislation basically means that you can no longer hold your phone while driving. And a first violation of this bill would be a $100 civil fine and or 16 hours of community service. Subsequent violation would be a $250 civil fine and 24 hours of community service. And if someone garners 3 or more civil infractions within 3 years, a court can order the person to complete a mandatory driver improvement class. Under all of the above rules, a civil fine would double if a driver got into an accident while violating the rules and was found at fault. So, Tom, the goal is to reduce distracted driving and fatalities.
Well, I mean, when government says they're looking out to protect you, there's always a price tag to it, right? This is going to be a revenue generator, not unlike seatbelts, and I've covered city halls for going on over 20 years now. Police are revenue generators. Enforcement is revenue generation. Right now, there are 24 states in Washington, D.C. that prohibit drivers from using handheld cell phones while driving. Okay, so this is gonna pick up. It's not unheard of in Michigan. The city of Troy has had this law for 10 years now, where if you're in Michigan and you were driving around with a cell phone in Troy, you would get a ticket. And when it first came out, we checked enforcement and it spiked the first few years, that we watched it. They're going to be using this. They're going to be enforcing it, and it's going to generate a lot of money for the government because everybody uses their cell phones when they're driving. I can say that because I ride my bike, and when you ride a bike, I watch every car like it's trying to hit me because that's how I feel. And I would say, 1 out of every 3 drivers is looking at their phone when they pass me. This is an enormous thing that happens when people drive. Everybody has their phone in their hand. So I'm going to be interested to check what enforcement happens over the next 2 and 3 and 4 years, because this is going to be a huge way for government to generate revenue now.
What interested me about this bill was that the revenue will flow to driver improvement courses. Some of it will flow to local libraries, the Secretary of State, whenever people pay to get their license unsuspended. And it also goes to the Justice System Fund, but I don't believe any goes to the general fund.
For now.
Until...
what we know, government money is fungible. That means in 3 years, when they've seen it's generated $600 million, all it takes is House and the Senate to say, hey, we're going to take that and pay for roads. We're going to take that and pay for my pet program. We're going to take that. So, I mean, that changes. It always changes, and it's very easy to change where the stream of revenue goes in government. I can tell you, I was an Ann Arbor reporter, and they found a way how from capital improvement projects, which is sewer, water mains going in, they found a way to pay for public art with that. So money is fungible in government, which means, sure, that's probably what they intend. We'll see what happens when they start getting all this money coming in and then where this money gets diverted to.
There were about 2,765 vehicle crashes in Michigan in 2021 where a driver was using a phone, and 21 of those crashes were fatal. So included in the bill is a requirement that 3.5 years after the bill is active, the Michigan State Police must submit a report to lawmakers citing, giving the number of citations given, the race of the people ticketed, the number of vehicle crashes, and the number of injuries and deaths caused by violations. So we'll definitely check in with the story before 3.5 years, but I thought that was an interesting requirement. Listeners can keep up with the story and more at thecentersquare.com. I'm Scott McClellan. Please subscribe, and thanks for listening.